Communications Minister Annika Wells has criticised big tech for their inadequate response to the under-16 social media ban, revealing only 300,000 accounts have been removed despite a total target of 5 million. For more, we're joined by Dr. Karen Sutherland from the University of the Sunshine Coast. What a surprise. What do you think's going on here?
Well, there could be a number of things. I mean, it could be that the platforms have tried to get the quick wins to get younger people off the platforms, but they might be finding it more difficult to find all of the profiles. It could be that younger people are creating new profiles as well and posing as adults. There could be lots of things going on there. The number is very low compared to what the government was hoping to achieve by this stage.
Yeah, very much so. What specific actions do you think big tech firms are actually taking to undermine the social media ban? What has the Communications Minister suggested?
Well, she suggested that they're just not taking the ban seriously enough and they're not doing everything they can to get the profiles of younger people off the platform. But I mean, it can be quite difficult because AI can only help so much. They've of course found where age is very apparent, but then they have to use AI to look at the content that people are looking at. If it's an adult account and they're looking at sort of content that would be of favour with younger people, using that to flag things as well. I don't think they've actually got their mechanisms in place really properly yet to do that really well. I think they've managed to get the low-hanging fruit in the beginning, but I think they need to really increase the tech around it to make it more effective, because they surveyed some parents and I think it was, they said that 49% of the parents in the survey said their kids had social media accounts, and then they resurveyed them after the ban and 31.3% still have social media accounts. So it's only about a third have been taken off.
Yeah, it's interesting because not all parents obviously agree with the idea of the ban in the first place. So there's going to be a lot of parents, like the tech companies, that are maybe dragging their heels on this one as well. The significance of that 5 million accounts being removed compared to the total number of accounts. Obviously, the government wants to see a lot of these kids off the platform. There are psychologists speaking as to the reasons as to why. But we know for the tech companies, what's the incentive?
Well, they don't want to get their fine. That's the only incentive there seems to be, because they can still serve advertising to younger people, and that's where they're getting their revenue from. So it's actually in their favour to have as many people as they can on the platforms. However, yes, the fine is quite significant. It's 49.5 million per breach, but nothing's happened yet. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and if the government's really going to enforce that.
Yeah, very much so. And obviously the criticism regarding the effectiveness of the age restrictions. We've seen the Prime Minister telling people that they need, telling these tech firms they need to lean in, they need to come up with technology there as well. But as you say, kids find a way. We've known this right from the beginning. It's surprising the government's surprised.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you think about it, the ban came in December. So it's only March, 1st of April, pinching a punch. So 1st of April. So it really hasn't been a long time for them to find real efficiencies in making this really effective. So, I mean, maybe they just need more time to work that out.
And what about the claim that some companies are trying to make the legislation fail? Do you imagine that that could be going on here?
I mean, anything is possible, absolutely. I mean, it would definitely be in the favour of the platform to make the legislation fail, because this sort of legislation seems to be popping up around the world now. And so it's going to have a huge impact on their numbers, because, yes, while younger people are not on there, with younger people, if they get that addiction to social media, which we've seen in a court ruling last week, it means that they could be platform users for life. So they sort of miss out on those development years of getting them used to using that platform on a daily basis or more.
Yeah, because Australia isn't on its own here. While the UK a few weeks ago decided against an overall giant ban against under-16s from getting involved, we have seen that court case where it's essentially been likened to an addiction, almost nicotine, for young people in particular, who've been able to point the finger at social media and say, this is the reason I am how I am, and it didn't end very well. So, and we saw Mark Zuckerberg involved in that case as well. Obviously, Meta and the other tech platforms are going to be very open to being careful about future legal avenues, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it'll be interesting to see. It almost supported the significance and the need for this ban as well to show that the platforms can be addictive. But I think too, it makes me wonder whether governments will then even step in to try and change the way that these platforms actually work to stop those addictive elements of the platforms. I read somewhere Meta is looking at changing the way that the platforms are set up. I know TikTok is focusing more on being a search platform rather than an engagement platform, to take that engagement aspect off it. So it's more around what you're searching for and the information that you're served. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how the platforms change over the next few years.
Yeah, all right. Well, a groundbreaking development as AI systems known as the AI scientist successfully generated and passed peer review for a research paper, a significant milestone in the growing role of AI in scientific research, as detailed in a new study in Nature. Some people find this terrifying. Others will say we're not really in the era of learning anymore, because if you need to find an answer, AI can do it for you.
Yeah, well, this was an interesting case, but it's not a single case either. I mean, there was a conference last year, I think it was in the US, where all of the papers, all the research papers were generated by AI. And so the whole conference was about people using AI to create papers to see how that went. But yeah, in this case, the AI brainstormed the ideas, it conducted the research and ran the experiments, analysed the data and wrote up the paper. And so, yeah, and it actually was accepted into the conference. It wasn't really like the main conference, it was the day before seminar, but still, it was still accepted. And I think this goes on a lot more than what is being reported, particularly for journals. Now with the peer review journals, there is like a disclaimer that you have to say how you've used AI, and you're asked as a peer reviewer, because that's completely voluntary, not to put papers into AI to help with the review. So yes, but I think because peer review is voluntary, no one gets paid, and then the journals charge a huge amount for universities to access them. There's a lot of work going on that is not paid, and it adds to a huge workload for academics. Not that I'm biased or anything, and so I can see why people are using AI to try and lighten their load.
Yeah, so how can, I guess, the AI scientist mimic a human scientist's workflow? Because it's what it's all about, right? The idea is AI can't do what we can do, but in this case, it seems like it can.
I think it depends on the type of research you're doing. So this seemed to be quantitative research where it ran experiments, gathered data, did the analysis and things like that, but you still need to check everything because it still gets it wrong. Hopefully there was a human involved in all parts of that process to generate the paper and to do the research and oversee it. Otherwise, I think that is definitely a problem, because it makes stuff up all the time. Like, it still does that. It's getting better, but it's still not 100% fixed.
And what about the research? How does it generate ideas and determine their validity?
Well, I think what it can do, it's very good at search and doing deep research now. And you can ask it to go and research a topic, and it can go off and find the peer-reviewed journal articles that have been done before. So you can find the gap and things like that. But even so, you still need to be familiar with those papers to make sure that it's giving you the right information. But it is very good at going off and giving you a snapshot of what's been done before and finding that gap to make sure that is, a credible research study.
All right, well, we still need you here at Ticker. You can't be replaced by AI anytime soon. Dr. Karen Sutherland, appreciate your insights as always. Thank you.